"Your girlfriend is expecting my child." That's what my best friend said to my face, like a dare, like a verdict, and I smiled, stood up, and laid a 20-week ultrasound report on the coffee table between us like a lit match in a dry field. The room didn't explode, but I watched color drain from two familiar faces until the silence felt like an emergency without sirens. People think betrayal happens in one moment, but it's a glacier, moving inches beneath the surface until one day it calves, and the ocean inside you gets a new shoreline. Let me step back before the water breaks again. I'm 29, the kind who laminates lease agreements and names houseplants. I believed safety came from systems and signatures. Jonah and I had 22 years of friendship, childhood bruises, shared detention slips, matching bad haircuts, an archive of loyalty that made me sloppy about red flags. We moved into a 3-bedroom in Austin. The lease in my name felt like routine, not leverage. Then came Nora, electric laugh, reckless eyeliner, optimism like a faucet that wouldn't turn off, and within 6 weeks she was sleeping over more than at her studio across town. Jonah suggested she take the spare room. I drafted a clean sublease with deposits, damages, and a paragraph highlighted where it counts. If this were a kinder world, the story would end with a housewarming and a burnt lasagna. But we live in the world where wolves borrow your hoodies and call you brother. It started as flickers, whispered laughter at 1 a.m. in the kitchen when I was supposedly asleep, 2 mugs left rinsed but not washed, a sudden fondness for running errands together for things we had in the apartment already. I told myself I was insecure, paranoid, dehydrated. Pick a reason that makes you sound civilized while your gut screams in caveman. The night before confession day, I saw a document in the printer tray that wasn't mine. Nora had been using it for a job application, she said. It wasn't an application. It was an OB-GYN visit summary stamped 20 weeks with a polite, clinical patient progressing favorably that read like an epitaph for the last 3 months of us. I folded it and left it on the counter because I wanted to be the man who doesn't snoop, as if ethics can make grief choose a different address. They asked me to sit. Jonah's hands performed that old guilty ballet, twisting, unclasping, rethreading, and Nora stared at a corner of the wall like if she focused hard enough she could edit her life out of this scene. "We didn't plan this," he said. "But we love each other," she said. "We'll raise this baby," he said. "We wanted to be honest," she said. Honesty arrives late, sweaty and smiling as if time didn't matter. I congratulated him. Calm is a weapon most people don't know they're holding until it's too sharp to pass off as kindness. I picked up the folded paper, opened it to them, and watched the arithmetic detonate inside Jonah's pupils. 20 weeks equals 5 months. I'd known Nora for 3. He asked her, "What does this mean?" The way people ask an ocean why it left. "It must be a mistake," she said, like the calendar had gaslit her. Somewhere in the apartment the fridge kicked on. Ordinary things stayed ordinary, which felt obscene. They tore into each other, timelines, denials, an argument architecture built from missing screws, and I realized something ghastly and liberating. This was not my conversation to moderate anymore. When they were both oxygen-starved enough to hear a new voice, I raised my hand and said, evenly, "I need both of you out of my apartment." Jonah sputtered lease, friendship, mercy, words that have saved him all his life. The lease doesn't flinch. I set the 30-day clock without raising my voice. The loudest thing in the room was the future walking in. I sat on the edge of my bed after, holding still so the shaking could finish making its case. There is a clean grief and a dirty grief. What knows your name chooses the dirt. I stared at the door I didn't lock and decided to become someone I could trust even if no one else did. In kinder stories, 30-day notices make people pack quickly and apologize beautifully. In this one, my betrayers became bureaucrats of audacity. They stayed, whispering in rooms I paid for, setting 2-person place settings like a sitcom that got renewed without the audience's consent. Jonah left his boots on the rug I'd chosen with indecent care. Nora adopted my non-stick pan with a fork the way some people adopt strays, loving incorrectly with consequences. We need to discuss the deadline, Jonah said, chopping onions without looking at me, as if I were a time slot to be negotiated. It's not feasible, Nora said, palm on belly, claiming the holy force field of motherhood like a security badge. The old me would have folded. The new me likes witnesses with titles. I mentioned Jonah's parents' guest house like a key I wasn't handing him, just pointing at. His jaw clicked. He hadn't told them yet, and shame has a way of showing up like a relative you forgot you invited. I changed every password. I canceled the vitamins Nora ordered with my Prime account the day after confession, a petty mercy to myself. I emailed the landlord, attached sublease PDFs with the eviction clauses highlighted, and received the predictable reply. Inter-tenant conflicts are your business as long as rent is paid. My response quoted Section 8C and used the kind of professional tone that pulls blood slowly and cleanly. Documentation has no temper, which is why it wins. When Jonah cornered me in the hall about their deposits, I recited paragraph 4, sentence 2 like scripture. Funds returned 30 days after vacancy, less damages, less unpaid bills. You can't hold our money, he said, which is something thieves always say when the world turns out to have paperwork. I told him the next conversation would include a cop if he continued blocking my path, and for the first time he looked at me like I could break what I loved and still choose not to. They escalated by proxy, friends pinging me with versions in which I was vindictive, unstable, cruel to a pregnant woman, narratives that rely on strangers being allergic to math. I sent one message to the few that matter. Dates and the silence they produced, no adjectives. The real ones pivoted toward me like sunflowers, the hobbyists drifted toward the drama like moths. Strange moments accumulated. A neighbor's little girl left a chalk drawing on our step, 3 stick figures holding hands, and I stood there longer than I should have, deciding whether to wash it away or frame it. My mother called to ask if I was eating, which is how parents ask if you're still reachable. I told her I bought a lockbox for my documents. I didn't tell her I had also purchased a safe for the parts of myself that believed in unexamined goodness. On day 14, property management sent the official notices. I taped copies to their doors with a neatness that felt like mercy. The house shifted then, indirect warfare traded for open siege. Milk ruined overnight, modem unplugged at noon during my meeting, a collection of small sabotages arranged like a teenager's collage. I documented everything. Photos, timestamps, emails to myself, receipts for a trial that would never happen but made the present behave. Nora tried a new front. "We can reset," she said in the hallway at 2 a.m., eyes glossy, voice soft enough to wrap around the handle of someone weaker. I said, "You're 22 weeks now," not as cruelty, but as weather, as a condition central to plans. Her mouth made a shape like apology and let something else out. "I didn't think it would go this far." That's what flames say about houses. The last week was a chorus of slammed drawers, open cabinets, and the clatter of arrangements breaking. I scheduled move-out inspections for the final day, noon and 1, separate like everyone says they'll be after an explosion. Before dawn, I jogged the river trail and realized I had begun checking my own pulse without touching, trust returning with a shyness I respected. They left early afternoon, an envelope with keys taped to my door. No note, no apology, just the absence they'd earned. What remained was a taxonomy of indifference. Scrapes where furniture was dragged like guilt, a dark stain in the carpet that didn't have the decency to be wine, a bathroom that smelled like everyone's worst day. Jonah had removed a smoke detector, as if avoiding alarms were a life strategy. I photographed everything, angles, close-ups, time-stamped, like a wedding photographer for consequences. I hired cleaners who didn't flinch, a painter who measured damage in inches and kindness, a carpet specialist who warned frankly that some stains are identities, not accidents. The spreadsheet was a work of practical art, itemized labor, before and after comparisons, receipts clipped together like a paper rosary. A week later I mailed certified copies, the letter neutral and undeniable, the return deposit measured and fair. The social fallout weirdly resembled weather, predictable patterns, pockets of storm, unexpected sun. Some acquaintances preferred the live stream of Nora's self-pity to my quiet documentation. Others sent the best 2 words a person can receive during a siege: need help. My friend Keisha came with a drill and an energy that can fumigate a space without chemicals. We patched, mounted, rearranged, and laughed in a room that had recently been a courtroom. Jonah's mother texted me a novel about shame and soup. She asked if I needed anything and meant it. I thought about the way families choose their own verdicts and decided to forgive her in advance for whatever hers would be. Rumor said Jonah and Nora were in his parents' guest house, the romance curdling under fluorescent truth. Money is a mirror, and it shows the bone structure of every lie. A week later, while organizing boxes labeled history, I found a photo of Jonah and me at 17, dumb grins, arms looped like a promise no one checked for small print. I sat on the floor, let the pain make its shape, and then I put the boy back in his box, a museum piece, not a monument. I don't believe in clean slates, I believe in good erasers. Some nights I heard echoes of their voices and realized it was only the air settling around furniture that was finally in the right places. I bought a new rug that didn't know anything yet. I wrote a note to the version of me who believed friendship made people harmless. You were not wrong to love, just wrong to ignore the audit. Peace arrived like a shy animal, letting itself be seen for a few minutes at a time before it trusted me with mornings. I started cooking again, filling the kitchen with smells that didn't argue. I let the windows mean it when they opened. I met someone at a Saturday repair cafe, Mara, who fixes toasters and talks to broken things like they can hear her. And for the first time in half a year, I wanted to tell the present tense my name. We took it slow, which is to say we listened. I told her the bullet point version of the worst parts, and she didn't offer fireworks or pity, just a nod that landed like shelter. We rehung the smoke detector together, laughing at how a small round object can make the word safe feel cloudless for a while. There were echoes, texts from unknown numbers, a blurred screenshot of a post accusing me of cruelty. I answered with nothing. I invested my energy in groceries, fresh sheets, and the slow expansion of a life that fits. Mara said, "You kept your promises to the future even when the past tried to collect." And I thought about the certified mail receipts lined up in a drawer like medals from a war you don't brag about. One afternoon, Jonah knocked. He looked like gravity had finally remembered him. "I came to say I'm sorry," he said, voice trembling the way his hands used to when we were 12 and he'd been caught chewing gum in class. I didn't open the door past the chain. Contrition is not a key. "I'm not the version of me you knew," he said. "Me neither," I answered, and it was the most honest farewell I could afford without taking out new loans. Weeks later, I received a padded envelope, the photo from our graduation, returned by his mother with a note that said only, "Take care of yourself." I pinned it to a corkboard titled Lessons and let it stay until the ache became architecture. On a quiet night, Mara traced the new paint along the baseboard and said, "It feels like the house is exhaling." I exhaled with it. People talk about closure like doors behave. Mine arrived as calendar reminders and invoices paid on time, as a deposit check printed and mailed without bitterness, as a rug vacuumed on Sundays. The opposite of chaos wasn't justice, it was proof. Somewhere, a baby would be born into a lattice of choices that weren't mine to approve and weren't mine to raise. I wished that child a kinder arithmetic than the one that undid this house. I still keep the subleases in a folder labeled boundaries, not because I expect another war but because peace has paperwork too. When I water the fern, I don't flood it. I read its soil and wait. The lease renews next month. The only new name on it is mine. And if anyone asks how I survived, I'll tell them I weaponized the mundane. Timestamps, clauses, polite emails, and a refusal to wrestle in rooms where the ceiling fans can't handle it. The night the ultrasound lied for me, I learned this. Predators don't live in the dark, they live in assumptions. Turn on the light, read the dates, and let the paper do the part of love that hurts too much to hold alone. to hold alone.